I like small minis that I cannot lie. On the podcast known as
Trapped Under Plastic, the podcast where the horny... the podcast where the hornier you are about painting, the better your wet blends will be.
Nice.
I couldn't get over the horn of hornier.
Joshua, you sly dog.
That comes to us from Joshua Nolet 8679.
Wow.
If you want to have your quote read, you just type in the comment section down of the YouTube video and say the podcast where, and then you say something funny. And everyone claps for you.
Yeah. And we give you this much airtime every single time. Anyways, let's talk about Preamble Ramble goodness. John's cracking a cold one for the boys right now. The first one you have here is roof.
Dude, bro.
You raising the roof?
I had a new roof put on my house yesterday.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good old homeowners insurance.
Yeah, baby.
For the first time in my life, I got paid out from an insurance company.
That's like the only insurance that's worth it, dude.
I know.
I got my roof like maybe a year or 2 years ago, and it felt so good to pay for none of it.
I know. I'm just like, what is this? So like constantly have like my checkbook halfway out of my pocket like an old man. It's just fucking nothing. They did it all in one day. I woke up at 6:45 in the morning thinking that fucking Bigfoot was on my roof. And I forgot they were coming. And they're right above my fucking my bedroom. I was like, what the fuck? And my wife's like, it's the roof guys. I'm like, oh, thank God. The aliens landed.
Yeah, dude.
And I got a funny story about this. So I'm home all day with just the animals and just this troop of guys.
Bro,
these dudes, God bless them, doing the Lord's work out there. Like it wasn't a bad day in terms of weather, but just working their asses off. And I was just like, God damn, out there eating their sandwiches at lunchtime for like 10 minutes. Otherwise, just busting their ass. Got there at like 6:45. They were done and cleaning up by like 3 p.m. And I was like, fuck. But something funny happened. I'm going upstairs to go feed the kitty, and they must have been a group of them right on my roof. And they had the mariachi music blasting out of their boombox all day, which was fucking awesome. Every time I'd come upstairs, I got to do a little dance. I was in a better mood.
Okay.
It was fucking awesome. And I heard this screaming. This guy yells, I shit you not, El Diablo, ay, ay. Like he was being tortured. And then I realized what it was. There's a big hornet's nest up on my roof.
Oh.
And when he was referring to the devil, he must have been referring to devil hornets. Found out later, I talked to some of the guys as they were kind of cleaning up, and they were like, yeah, we got rid of it. We kicked it down the roof. And I was like, thanks, man. He's like, it's okay. They must be used to it. But they got my hornet's nest out.
Okay. I have a strange story that's related to that as well.
Okay, let's hear it.
I had a wasp nest hanging from the eave of my house.
Yeah.
And I swear it was like the size of an apple like a week ago. And then like a week later, it was the size of a fucking basketball.
Oh, no.
And like it's right outside of the door that is the walk-in to my basement. So that door is just like not usable.
Nuh-uh.
And so I was like outside working, and then a solicitor came up, and they just how happened to be a bug person.
Yeah.
And I was like, actually, you know, I normally don't want to talk to a solicitor, but like I was like, can you come look at this hornet's nest?
Real close. Get real right up in it.
Yeah. And like whatever. He like talked about services and stuff, but like he ID'd it immediately. He's like, oh yeah, that's some strange and wild and incredibly aggressive version of wasps. I forget what he called it. Like a bald-faced hornet's nest. And I was like, he's like, that's the most aggressive species in North America. And I was like, okay, guy, because like we were discussing like how I was gonna take care of it. And he was like, honestly, I'd wait until midnight, walk up with the trash bag, and just fucking grab it. I was like, you're fucking with me, dude. Not only does he tell me that it's like the scariest like species of hornet in North America, he's like, grab it with the trash bag, you'll be fine. And I was like, dude, this is ridiculous. And so I like went and Googled like the actual species that he said it was. And it was like, if you actually have this nest, just hire professional help. They can literally chew through like bags, like garbage bags. I'm like, fuck that, bro. Like, I'm not gonna be a hero today. And so I hired an insect person, or whatever they're fucking called, and they came and they took care of it. And like he showed me the nest and like everything, and it was like, yeah, it was big.
He showed it to you.
Yeah.
Take a listen. I usually have to deal with hornets or wasps of some form or another at least once a year.
Oh, really? That's the first time ever for 10 years living in our house.
Oh, my favorite are the ground hornets.
Oh.
So they have like a giant thing like that, but it's underground, and those suckers are so mean. One time I was out by my grass pit where I throw my grass, and I stepped on it, and these motherfuckers got mad. So then I waited till the fall, it cooled down a little bit, and I went in with a shovel, and I'm not kidding you, it was like the size of like one of the balls that you sit on for a desk chair instead of a ball. And it was just, there was no dirt anymore. It was just that under there. My recommendation, here's what my go-to. This is my redneck way of dealing with any hornet's nest. Is you firecrackers. You go to Menards and you buy the hornet and wasp spray that can shoot up to 40 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And
40 feet.
Yeah. So you get a nice distance. And so what you do is once a day, you go over that side of your house, or you just kind of set up your sniper position right around the corner. You take one side step out, just like you're doing FPS Doug, and you just hose that thing down and then run inside. You do that 3 days in a row, the motherfuckers are all dead.
Do you engage modern warfare?
Yeah,
you just shell these bitches artillery style.
It's just chemical warfare. I'm just poisoning the motherfuckers till they die.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, just spray them. The problem is with mine is that because I like multi-tier roofs, and there are two spots that I can't reach the wasp and hornet's nest where they start to build them, because I'd have to get up on a ladder, get on the roof, and then my shoot and run system no longer works.
Right, yeah.
It's more of a shoot and jump system.
You gotta like also like take a gauge of like the wind and like account for that. It's like you're like curving the shot like onto the roof.
Yeah, you just bend it like Beckham around the fucking thing.
Get your little wind gauge out. You got a spotter. He's like about 10 yards away. We've got a wind about 3 miles an hour from the east.
I just duct tape a laser scope around the fucking wasp.
On the aerosol can, dude. That's good shit. All right. Anyways, this is not a podcast about wasp and wasp removal, but you got that today.
Yeah. It's a bonus. Bonus. Oh, you played some Star Wars RPG?
I played. We did our first session of Star Wars RPG, and so it was so much fun. I had so much fun. It's like a canned experience, like I said last time. We're doing lessons from the past, the campaign from the back of the rule book, and it tells you what planet it occurs on and all that stuff. And so I did a little bit of research on the planet, like what kinds of things go on there, just for a little bit of some narrative hooks, Yeah. And so I made like a list of narrative hooks for the planet and for each one of my characters. And so I knew if they did the thing that RPG players tend to do, which is like kind of side quest into oblivion.
Yeah.
I could riff a little bit. There was like one baked in side quest for the mission. And of course, they took it immediately.
Oh yeah.
And the one outcome that had no branching determined path was, of course, the one that fucking occurred.
No.
And so I was like, all right, it's time to riff. And the entire 4 or 5 hour session, or it's probably 4 hours, was them getting through this side mission that was not even a part of the pre-made module. But it was fun, and I was ready for it, and it totally worked out. There was like some scholar getting beaten up, and they wanted to go and help the scholar. And what's supposed to happen is, with a very easy coercion check, you like make the guards go away, and you talk to the scholar, and he gives you some info right there and then. But of course, every single one of their charm and arguing checks failed abysmally. And so they had to move along essentially. And then I had them drag the scholar away to a little detention facility. They went and then fucking raided, and then like got the guy. And I was like, what does this mean for the rest of the campaign now that like you're like known insurgents on this planet? So I got to figure that out for myself. But
they call that the butterfly effect.
Oh yeah,
one beat of a butterfly's wings sends ripples into the fucking cosmos,
and it's gonna ripple, baby. Yeah. So it was fun. I had a lot of fun. A lot of funny things. A lot of really cool like role playing moments too. Because like one thing that's in Star Wars is like you can in the Force and Destiny version specifically is you can trigger someone's morality. So everyone's got like a morality, an emotional strength and an emotional weakness. And throughout playing, you will gain conflict, which makes your morality go up and down. This is what determines whether or not you are a light side user or a dark side user.
Okay.
And so every once in a while, you can trigger someone's morality so that whatever conflict they gain in that session when they lose in game morality based on it, it's double. So it's especially important. And so I engaged one of my players' morality because I gave him a scenario that's like really near and dear to his character's heart, and he had to make the right choice, and as opposed to what he's supposed to do. And so that kind of makes it more fun as well to have like those moments for each player because they kind of get to shine in a fun way. But
So
it felt good.
So they can either choose to reinforce how they had their characters built in their morality, or and the fun way to think about that, at least in my brain, is like it's not about them choosing wrong or failing. It's about if they choose a different route, it opens up this opportunity for a growth, whether that growth is good, bad, or otherwise, but a growth and change in that character, which is it's often really hard to do in a game system. And I really appreciate that Star Wars kind of has that built into the rules of usually when you come into a game, it's like people have their characters and their backstory and who they are and blah, blah, blah. And they like don't really change, right? When you think about it, the whole point of a whole campaign or this adventure that these characters are taking place in, it's about showing them their growth and who they become. It's like the pivotal part of their character's existence.
Yeah.
So there should be that there. It shouldn't just be like, no, this is me. I'm just the same me forward to end.
Yeah.
And like encouraging that growth and kind of putting it on these gray areas where it's like everything within the realm here, most of the choices that you could pick kind of fall in, but you may be further to the right of your gray zone, a little bit further to the left, and that may make you think and about like, oh, what really is within the shade of gray, where does he or she fall? So that's pretty sweet.
It is sweet. Yeah, it's hard to be like the arbiter of that kind of stuff. It's like it's hard to determine when they make a choice that should gain them conflict. The book has like a list of like things like if they murder someone, like they gain a ton of conflict. If they see someone suffering and don't help, they gain a little bit of conflict and like a whole bunch of options in between. So it's like it's hard to determine like, okay, if they try to help that guy but just failed to convince that security guard, should they gain conflict for not helping him get beaten up and dragged away, or did they actually try? It's hard to decide like when someone's like conflict goes up and down, but it's a lot of fun.
I think to me, the thing that I would want to be wary of after being a DM for so long is to be careful that your players don't feel like it's like sort of Damocles that you're holding over their head of like they have to play their character a certain way, otherwise punishment will come, right?
Yeah.
And that you can't, or you can approach that potential pitfall two different ways. The first one is to be like, to reference it before you start playing. It's like, I'm not trying to do this to punish you. I want you to truly act how you want to act, and it'll work itself out. You're not going to fail or lose or be in a terrible position because you chose a certain thing. Just play the way that you think your character would play it, because otherwise the character, they almost feel like they can't play out their character. There's a choice, otherwise they're punished unless they do it just this way. And those are the kinds of games, at least for me as a player, are least fun, because I feel like I don't have control over how my character is, because I feel like I'm going to get punished if I don't save the fucking princess.
Yeah, I totally get that, and I've read a lot of like info that's like, you don't want to make your players feel stupid. You also don't want to make them feel like this impossible. Like you're trying to create a game that's fun for them, and so it's really important to do that. But you actually reminded me of a question that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
So Dan was on the roof of this detention facility, and he tried to break in to a door on the roof using a computer's check, trying to hack the little panel there.
Oh yeah,
and he failed.
Roof doors.
Yeah, he failed, and I was like, okay, you failed. Some funny thing happens because you failed in a certain way. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna try to bash the door in now with the butt of my gun. And I was like, oh, okay. In my like board game head, he attempted to open it and he failed. That was his opportunity, and the punishment is now that he needs to find a different way to get into the building, as opposed to just like essentially rolling a very similar dice roll again to see if he could get in, but with a different narrative method. He's going to bash the door in now with the butt of his gun. Would you allow a player to just continually interact with a mechanic in a different way narratively to try to like kind of brute force a solution? Or is it kind of like, you had your attempt and now like we need to move on narratively and into something else? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I try to say never is a strong word. I try to never say no.
Okay.
Always allow them to do that.
Okay.
However, what you can do is you can make it a little bit more, make them pause before they choose to do that. There's enough like context clues that just doing that may not may not be wise. So,
Sure.
and he fails the security door check. Maybe once he fails it, just a little red light starts beeping.
Fucking
right?
A. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. That's
And then let's say he doesn't know if that means an alarm has been sounded off or not, but he does know that there's a reaction to the course of action he took. Maybe they're going to come check this out, and me smashing it is maybe not the smart idea. Maybe I need to get out of here. And then let's say he decides to smash it. Whether he succeeds or not, then you have the light beep faster and then make an audible sound.
Sure.
Right? So now he's like, oh, no. So no matter what they do, succeed or fail, try to think of some way that the world changes because of their action.
Okay.
As long as I'm doing that, I don't have to worry about saying no because I've given them new data points that can affect their decision. And then I don't have to feel bad of like, suddenly 12 guys are there, you know? Like they could see the writing that this is a possible outcome. And maybe at some point he smashes and he does break it open, but then as the door swings open, he hears loud footsteps of a bunch of guys rushing up. He can't tell how many, but it's certainly more than a couple.
Yeah.
Now he's got a new data point to deal with.
Sure. Okay.
So
That's good shit.
That's
good
how I
shit.
try to deal with it.
All right, yeah. I don't want to say no, but I also want there to be consequences, you know?
Yes,
I don't want them to
that's
feel like they can just do whatever the fuck they want, like
Yes.
forever, you know? But yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. You want to give them information to not feel like you're just always like pulling the wool over their eyes, that as soon as something happens, something terrible negative happens, so they're basically getting punished. You want them to see that there are the consequences, maybe negative, especially a failure should be a negative, but it encourages them to then take action. So you as the DM aren't always doing all the talking and all the actions. You just I shoot a little bullet over the bow, and then the ball's back in their court. You always want to try to push the ball back to them because that makes your job easier, and it gives you time to kind of think and figure out. It's like, okay, there are footsteps coming. I don't know exactly what this means yet. I don't have to figure it out. Let's see what they do, right? The more you can push the action on the players, the more engaged and more fun they're going to have too.
For sure.
So, what else did I have here? So I was hanging out in some streams, some Twitch streams, and chat with some folks and realized Nova's right around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not going this year, even though I said I was going to go to Nova every year. I kind of was taking 2024 because we went to LVO last year, we went to Adepticon last year, I went to Nova last year, and 3 kind of felt like a lot. But it also was just like, oh, there's so many that I want to go to. I want to go to Gen Con. I want to go to PAX Unplugged. I want to, there's so many ones. I'd love to go to ReaperCon at some point. I want to go to Nova and stuff. So I'm kind of missing out on that feeling of Nova and remembering it and talking to fucking Jakey Poo, the curtain engineer, about his piece that he's working on for Capital Palette. So I kind of going to live vicariously through Jakey Poo and hopefully next year. But I don't know. You ever get that little FOMO of like an event's coming up, people start talking about it, and you're not going. You're kind of like, even though in your adulting head, you're kind of like, I don't know how I'd manage that being gone for that long. But that's always in my head. It's always like, how am I going to get my regular work done?
Yeah. I think that's happened so many times to me where like I'll go to an event and then come back and like suffer greatly for my time away that it really actually has dulled the shine of going to live events for me, like a lot. So not so much anymore. There are definitely ones that like, even when I think about them, like in an instant, maybe it's not super attractive. There are ones that are definitely on the bucket list. Like you said, Gen Con and PAX Unplugged are huge ones. I'd love to go to PAX East as well. But also I'd love to go to, I'd love to go to the one that you went to that the name's escaping me. Capital Palette, Nova Open, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And also Reaper. And also there's one in California that's pretty cool too. Like those are ones that like are on the list, like for sure. Like I'd love to go to SMC, Scale Mile Challenge. And what's that other one in
Salute?
Salute? Yeah, I want to see what Salute's about. So yeah, like I want to go to all of them.
And I think the Cult of Paint guys are gonna theirs is gonna become like a real physical thing.
Oh, okay. Oh,
So-
like for their painting competition, they're gonna make it
Yeah.
a show. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so and I've heard really good things about that, and so they actually are already from listening to their podcast, Culture of Paint. So if you are looking for a different podcast about mini painting,
Less wasps in that one, probably.
yeah, they have their own style of humor. It's far more British than ours.
Yeah. A lot of tea and crumpets.
There's so many crumpets that are being eaten there. That's a good one to check out. You can check out the Cult of Paint YouTube channel. Subscribe to those good chaps. But yeah, I'd love to check out that. But yes, so what I've kind of come to is that like part of me feels like making content around the event. I've always like felt like I put like my own negative vibe around that. Like that's not quality content. That's not a good thing. That's not what I should be making videos on. But those are sometimes really fun to make. You can go into it with end up with a storyline that you weren't planning at all, and I think people really appreciate those videos too. So it's like I think that the way that I'm going to try to balance it is I'm either need to be able to find a time efficient video that I can have ready so I don't feel bad about being gone, or planning a quick turnaround video from some interesting aspect of the experience. Now, that said, that also can kind of like be a cloud over your head of the whole experience, or you're like feeling like, oh, I got to make sure I get footage, or I got to make sure I do whatever. But I don't know. I think it's all about your mindset.
Yep.
Part of me is like, no, I'm having this really cool thing, like the secret Mordheim, the Mordheim room and the hidden areas and the grinder thing from Adepticon that they were like, didn't necessarily even knew they existed. And like, I know some guys made some awesome videos on that interesting one little aspect of Adepticon. And it's like, just being open and finding a thing that really excites you, and then just being able to share that with others. And maybe that's a more positive spin on that. So I'm trying to find a way to do that, and to be able to attend more things.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Mindset is a huge thing. I think one thing that I really want to commend you on when it comes to YouTube is just how tight you are with your subject matter. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about this, but it feels like 80% of your, maybe not 80, 70% of your content is you sitting down to paint a miniature. Now what the script is about and what the focus of the video is about, that may change, but a lot of people probably come to really appreciate that kind of consistency, right? Like,
Yeah.
I sign up to John because I know reliably he's going to produce a video like this, and that's the kind of videos that I like, and subscribers really like that. I think it's really good for a performance thing. So you thinking about a show video is like a cop out, I think that kind of comes from that, like you wanting that consistency, right?
Yeah, I feel a hint of kind of guilt. That's probably the best word. A guilt when I do a video that I'm not painting a miniature in.
Sure, yeah.
And I actually have come to think that like that's maybe not a healthy way to look at that. Not that I want to start making 50% of my videos where I'm not painting, because I don't feel that at all. But just for my own, mental health and everything too. Like that can be a lot as a one-man crew to be trying to push out a video just about every week with working in the time for the hours that it takes to actually paint the things and edit the painting footage. Like that's 2 days.
Thinking about how to make it interesting too, and like everything kind of needing an angle, know?
Yeah, that's a lot. And so there's other fun things that I'm gonna start kind of experimenting with a little bit in moderation to find other examples. And I haven't done videos like by the time this episode is out, there'll probably be one out from me where it's going back to some more investigation and critique and sharing of products that I like too.
Sure, yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, because it's like I feel like, oh man, I've come a long way in things that I've like looking back on things that I really use a lot and things that I really appreciate, especially from a value perspective, and then that opens my mind to all kind of a whole series of videos. So I want to kind of do those too, because I think there's a lot to be said in offering value that's kind of adjacent to this is all stuff that you're using for painting. So it's valuable to know about that. So we're going to do some more of that too. But it's so weird because so much of the work that we do is like us alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you take in this massive X factor that is, no, now it's at a live event that you have to capture the things in real time or they're gone forever. You can't set up the shot. You can't make the person say the thing in the moment again the same way. You have to it's a totally different filmmaking style.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is kind of an energy drain.
Yeah.
And so when we're at an event, when I know that I'm making a video on something, there's at least at the back of my brain, everything I'm doing as I'm walking around, anything I'm experiencing, it's nagging at me about that. And that's a bit of a bleh moment.
Yeah.
But maybe I need to do better at okay, I'm going to identify one thing. I'm going to suck all the juices out of that one thing and then be able to not stress about it beforehand and afterhand. But I don't know.
It also comes down to pre-production, right? A lot of those live events really are impacted by your preparation.
Yeah.
Right. So that comes down to having the right gear. You know, do I have an on-camera microphone? Do I have lavs in case I want to do an interview of someone? Did I talk to someone beforehand and kind of get an idea of what would be an interesting question to ask them to kind of suss out those interesting replies? You know, a little bit of maybe of a pre-interview. There's a lot of ways you can prepare for that to make it smoother. But again, that's just more work, you know?
It is. But
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Is the more that you have locked and loaded, the more when the moment comes, you'll be quick to react to
ready,
it.
yeah.
Because you know what you want when you see it.
Mm-hmm,
You know? And so that's it. And part of that is yes, it's draining because it's totally out of our usual wheelhouse for how we make videos.
It's a new kind of style, yeah.
Yeah. However, there is a level of energy to it, especially when I'm going back and doing the edit. I'm oh, this is fun because it's different.
Yes.
Does it mean I want to do this for every video? Not necessarily, but it's just a nice change of pace.
And I think honestly, when my content was a little bit tighter, people really appreciated those random videos where it was a little bit different spice. As long as they kind of knew you were kind of coming back home a couple more times afterwards. So I think that can be really helpful.
Look at us. Fucking every time I'm oh, this Preamble Ramble is not that much stuff on it.
Dude, you had 4 fucking items. I knew this was going to be fucking 30,
I?
40 minutes. Yeah. It's going to, but I don't mind. But yeah, 100%. All right. Next thing I want to talk about, I don't know why I do this, but whenever I make a miniature, I feel the need to keep it a secret. It doesn't need to be a fucking secret. But right now, I'm making a new model. Here's a picture of it on the screen right now. It's called the Cheerleader. I don't know if people are going to like a cheerleader as a concept, but it's going to be a limited edition bust. That I've never made a bust before. I've never made a limited edition model before, and so I'm kind of trying something new out right now. Let me know down in the the comment section if you are interested in this model. My plan is to order a couple of copies. I don't know, maybe between 300 and 500, and sell them. But if there are more people that are interested in this kind of subject matter, let me know. I had a wonderful concept artist drop a great image based on a lot of information from a mood board. That was a ton of fun. And then I had Layla Khalili, I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, sculpt the model, and she did a wonderful job. She took a ton of feedback, and after a couple of different revisions, we got the model basically looking like the concept 1-to-1. And it's really awesome. And I'm really happy with the model. It has a lot of things that I really like about it. So it's an athlete, and so you can kind of just based on that subject matter, have fun with the color scheme. But the jersey has a huge spot on her chest for you to freehand a symbol. You can do a lot of fun gore on the baseball bat because obviously she's been through some combat. You know, her outfit is torn and also safety pinned together. And she's got a cheeky smile, so it's she just beat the shit out of some zombies or who knows what. You can kind of interpret it however you want, but I like the model a lot. It's got a nice, big, open, visible face to paint as well. I'm a huge fan of painting faces, and you can kind of take it in a bunch of different directions. So I'm excited to paint it a lot.
Yeah, if you were to ask me without having seen this model, because I've seen some of your iterations as you've kind of gone along and made a lot of tweaks. So first of all, I commend you for your attention to detail and wanting to make these tweaks, things that I wouldn't have even necessarily thought of. Now I probably haven't stared at it nearly as long as you to really analyze that.
Staring helps.
But I can see the changes, and I really appreciated them over time. But if you would ask me, what do you think about doing a cheerleader bus? What the fuck are you talking about? But then I see the model, and I'm oh, I want to paint this thing because, just like you're saying, it has this really nice balance between it is well defined. There are just the right amount of details. There is like the attention to the anatomy and the slight tweaks and like the angle of her head and the way that she's holding something naturally, like holding the bat naturally. And the details are there, but there is so much room for you to just interpret it the way that you want to. And I really like giving a lot of the onus to the painter.
Yes.
And a sculpt can do that, or it can pull that away from you.
Yes.
And I really appreciate this. I could easily see 50 different painters painting this in seclusion and coming back and having 50 completely different versions of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
thank you. That means a lot. I really tried hard to make it a model for miniature painters, which is like a unique perspective that you and I both have. You know, like we know what elements are fun to paint on a model and what elements kind of like are more of a chore. And so I really tried to minimize the chore aspect of it. And I also learned a lot from like the last couple models that I've made. And I wanna make a new video about like what I would change about the last video I made about how to make a model from concept to cast. This time around, because like I felt like a lot of things we did differently this time were really good. One huge thing is just roping in other parties earlier on in the process. So like when I'm literally drawing the figure or someone else is drawing the figure, I will share concept with my caster and be like, hey, like I want to do these kinds of elements. Like where are the pitfalls? And they'll be like, okay, well, like, you know, if you want to do a pom-pom, a lot of undercuts in a pom-pom because there's ribbons and stuff. And so it's like, but when I can get those things figured out beforehand, I'm not wasting people's artistic effort drawing a thing that is unmakeable, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really helpful to like get people that are later on in the process involved earlier on in the process to give that crucial feedback so you're not investing time that's wasted.
Yeah. I have a collaboration video idea I want to share with you later. I'm not going to share it now in case it doesn't come to fruition, then people will be mad. So I was going to mention that maybe over attendees we can discuss it. But I had a question for you. Is the process of designing and going through everything for a bust, was it less work, more work, or roughly the same compared to a full like 54 mil model?
It's roughly the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking it would be less just because you have less aspects of the body that need to feel natural and work together, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
you're not dealing with
That makes sense.
hips and the legs.
Leg length and torso length and all that stuff.
That's a legit thing.
It
And that's
is.
hard.
Yeah, people get it wrong and they don't notice it and they make a model and it's like, bro, like what are you doing?
Yeah, I know. You just look like you got Oompa Loompa legs and Schwarzenegger body. What are we doing here? Yeah. But like also like I can quickly look at a model and have it feel less realistic in how anatomy and poses work once you get the hips in, because the hips is like, it's such minor things because it's on a swivel that goes back and forth and it goes up and down and it goes forward and back.
Yeah.
So there's so much range of motion in your hips that really is so dynamic in a pose, and taking that off can shore up a lot of things. And also like stuff on the legs too, like in terms of details and stuff. Like sometimes that's fine because you can keep it more minimalistic. It's not supposed to be the accent of the piece. But then you can actually just spend more of that time, which is probably what it is, roughly the same amount of time as my guess. But you can just focus on those minor details on just the torso up to the top of the head because all these other factors aren't involved.
Yeah. It felt like the same, but maybe the reason why it felt the same is because, I mean, a great way to make models is you just hire talented people. And so when I made those full figure models, I had an incredibly talented sculptor who just kind of nailed it like right away, like the anatomy. A lot of the details we had to fix, but like I didn't have to like spend 3 weeks like sending notes about how to make the face look more human. Like if you just find someone who's just like knows what they're fucking doing, that part is really easy.
Yeah. Bro, you even know how cheeks work?
The problem is that I don't know how cheeks work, right? The only thing I can do is look at a sculpt and be like, that doesn't look human. I don't know why it doesn't look human. Right. Maybe the forehead's too big. Maybe the cheeks are too high. Like, I don't know what it is, but it looks wrong. And like that is the worst place to be when you're making a model, because it's like, I can't help you. You know, you got to help yourself.
Yeah, I don't have any constructive feedback, but I do have some feedback.
Yeah. So anyways, let me know in the comments below if you are into the idea of a cheerleader mini. I'm thinking about getting a couple copies to a UK area area and also an EU area, so that the shipping is cheaper. But yeah, let me know if there's any interest.
I'll tell you my last two real quick. So the first one is I've been taking a little break from Games Workshop painting lately. I've been painting a lot of rats, and so I want a little, little break. Sometimes painting something different from a different company, especially, can allow you to paint in different styles and just kind of relax yourself, and then bring new energy back to my Skaven army. And so I painted an Infinity figure. Now I painted a bunch of Kingdom Death models, and I've really enjoyed it because it's allowed me to then go back and like break up the way that I've been painting the Games Workshop models is just like not at all how I painted these other ones. And it's just really kind of fun to realize like, oh, as one painter, you can paint a whole bunch of different ways and have fun doing that. So I just wanted to mention that. And then finally, after many years of being unhappy with how my painting storage and paint wall setup has been, because it's kind of a mishmash of all these different kind of paint racks and everything. There's probably like 8 different companies and like 8 different styles of racks around. I picked up this set that I think I'm gonna end up doing video if I see this project all the way through, because it's gonna be a fair bit of a heavy lift, and I'm gonna do like a custom wraparound wall in my painting area of all the same things, and it's just gonna. I'm hoping it works well. But I finally had some time on this weekend to do a bunch of measurements to get the corner in correctly, because you gotta start with the corners, because corners are the biggest pain in the ass, and the last thing you want to do is have things not line up in the corner. You know, because if you can go out to one edge, that's fine. You can stop it where it naturally stops. And I'm in the back wall. I'm going to start with the 2 corners and then meet in the middle. But in the middle is where my monitors are going to be. So if there's a gap there, a little gap, I can either do a little small custom insert so it's completely flush, or I can just keep that gap if it looks okay because it's behind the monitors. So.
Sure, yeah. You could just put in a piece of that laser cut like wood that kind of matched everything else. Like
Yeah.
a little filler. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm excited to see it. It's going to look super clean and nice. You're going to see all your paints at once.
All of them all at once, and then I get overwhelmed all over again. It fucking takes so like this is the cold hard truth. It takes a long fucking time once you take all your paints down, and then you put them back up on a new rack, and then put them back in the right order.
Yeah,
It takes so much longer than I would expect.
Yeah, I can't imagine. That probably would take a long time.
Every time I do that, I'm like, well, should I put the grays first, and then the blues, and then the purples, and then the...
it's like what would make it most easiest for you to use this paint, you know? Like sorting it by hue and brand, like who knows?
I started this corner, and I can send a picture to Alex so you can show it now. I put in the ones for the Army Painter Fanatics line first, and I will say there's one really nice thing about the Fanatics line. So these inserts, they go 6 wide, and each of the ranges for the Fanatics line has 6 colors in it.
Yeah, dude. Because they have like a mid and like a wait. How does it work?
They go from, so an example, like ruddy brown is kind of like the overarching umbrella, and then there's 6 colors within the ruddy brown family, from a really light all the way up to like a really like dark reddish brown.
That's sexy.
And there's 6 of them, and on each bottle it has this little like
gauge,
where this one falls on the 6.
So
you know where it falls when you put it back on the shelf. And then there's just that line of 6, and I'm just like, oh god, that's so nice. And then the rest of them aren't going to look that good. There's going to be an overlap of 1 blue down in the purple row, and I'm just going to be mad. But cross that bridge when we get there.
Or, man, if you had them all arranged together, they could just like streak the whole wall, you know? I mean, no. The 6 on the Army Painter is nice, but for the other ones, maybe that don't break.
That's true. That's true. I could have it run across, so, you know, if it worked more visually helpful to run them 2 across, so it's like 12, right?
Yeah. And then you could like snake too, so it's like purple, you know, yellow, you know, and it'd be like a big like RGB strip or something. I don't fucking know. Yeah, all right, that's it for the Preamble Ramble. On to what we painted. I'll go first because it's sad.
Because it's sad.
I have been editing videos forever. I had to do that fucking the one before the Razor Wing video. I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember what it was. Then the Razor Wing one, and then I just finished the last one. I had 3 videos all already recorded that I had just have to edit the last fucking 2 weeks, however long it's been. And so the only amount of painting I've done is what I've been doing on my live stream, which is if we record a podcast once every 2 weeks, I do 2 streams. So I don't get very far on a stream. I'm pretty slow. But I'm painting mandrakes, and I'm going for a reverse scheme. Normally they got black skin, white hair, khaki shorts. I'm giving them khaki skin, black shorts, and then maybe some kind of black hair. I'm undecided. I use the Vallejo Express Black Lotus, which is like the darkest, blackest contrast paint they have. Yeah, and like that, I mean, honestly, it doesn't work. It's too blue, and what you're looking at right now has 2 or 3 washes of black on top of it already. Because like that's inefficient. I'm never gonna do that in a scheme. I'm just trying to get it to look like what I want it to look like, and then once I've figured out what I want it to look like, then I can kind of change things from there. At the moment, I'm not loving it. It's a little bit weird. I like the khaki skin, but I don't like the black on the bottom or the black on top. I'm right now I'm experimenting. What I want to talk about in the extended podcast is all the ways that I've attempted to do a little white recessed shade so that I can like kind of bust out the airbrush and kind of like zap those runes with some nice glowy color. And I want to look really bright. And so I want to use a little bit of an undercoat of a pin wash to make them look even brighter than the khaki skin that's near them. And so that's that. I was doing a lot of that, a lot of experimentation. And right now, unhappy with the look as a whole, but I think I can fix it so the hair and the clothing does look better. But I like the skin. The skin's fine. It kind of matches the khaki for the rest of my army.
That's you're going to go with the old El Miniaturista method?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, because it feels like 2/3 of his YouTube shorts or Instagram shorts and stuff is him doing hyper OSL with an airbrush.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes it look fucking phenomenal. So they totally just watch some of those shorts and then you'll get it down.
One thing actually he does is kind of interesting is like, when you use an oil wash, it kind of spreads a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And he uses that to his advantage. And so he'll put down an oil wash and like it'll be a little bright line in the recess, and then it'll spread this look foggy white like on top of this black primer. And he doesn't clean that up. He just airbrushes right on top of that, and it looks like the crack is glowing.
Yeah. He often will he'll do that really. I'm thinking it's a thicker white pin wash, because if you go too thin with a white oil, it ends up fading and not being as punchy as his is. So he'll add that white oil, and then he'll go in with an airbrush of white ink and just spritz it over the top, so you get that same fade in the area. So it gives you like the area glow, but it's still brighter white in the section, in the center. And then he can go in with like the neon pink, and it looks naturally glowy. So
absolutely, yeah.
I really like the contrast of the dark and the light. It makes the skin. I think if it was more of a mid-tone on either the skirt or the hair, I think you'd lose the contrast you have with the skin, because I really like the skin. Mm-hmm. One thing you could consider doing, I think, is to create more of a chromatic black. So for the skirt, you do that heavier black speed paint, and then go through with like a rich blue speed paint. So a second layer right over the top, and that black will pull it all in, but it'll have a lot more depth of color and still read dark, but have some interest in color in it, instead of just, because at a table length, there's just, you can get it from the glowy bits, I suppose. So, but it's so kind of monochromatic.
Yeah.
So to add a little bit of that, but then you're right too. You want the hair to not be too matchy with the skirt.
Yeah. I think what I'm thinking about right now is I'm going to change their pants to be a dark brown leather, which is kind of go a little bit better with, I think, the warm palette that I have, and then I don't know what to do with the hair at that point.
I would do a bluish black hair. Do it like it is right now, and then highlight it with like a desaturated gray blue.
Yeah.
And that way you can get more definition in those strands, but it will still overall read as dark.
Yeah. A coal black definitely, I think, is a place somewhere on the model.
Yes.
But that's my little
cool models.
Little model I'm working on right now.
I didn't realize this because my buddy was asking me about this set. This is from the Nightmare set, these guys.
Yeah, you gave me this stuff.
Yeah, I gave you those mandrakes. That was a limited run. Do you know how much that box goes for on eBay?
No.
$250. It's over double what its MSRP was, because it's the only place to get those models, and it's the only place to get the Night Lords models, and there's a terrain thing in there that is the only place that terrain thing for 40K, and it's like a big thing. It's the only place to get those. Now, I'm sure they'll re-release those models, the other models of terrain, and other things in the future. So then, the price is going to go back down. But I'm like, God damn! Well, I'm glad that you got them and you're using them because I don't play Dark Eldar anymore, and I still kept the Night Lords for me. So I like that. I like when there's something that's like, oh, you're going to use it, you like it. I'm just like,
Yeah, I'm happy that I could actually use it instead of just sitting in my closet and doing nothing.
they're
with
really nice models too.
They're nice, yeah, and they're not actually too much bigger than the old ones as well. So if you do have some old ones in your army, these will fit very nicely with them.
Yes,
They're nice, just like kind of like the Terminator, like new model. These are very similar, pretty close aesthetically, but like just a nice modern reinterpretation.
yeah, a nice update with today's technology. Exactly. I painted a Survivor Squad. So this is a full team for Kingdom Death Monsters. So Adam Poots, creator of Kingdom Death, he issued me a challenge, and he said, I'd like you to come up with the ultimate Survivor Squad that you think is the balanced party that can go in and can take on any monster in Kingdom Death Monster. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. So I get to figure out, had all my notes. I was doing the whole like Beautiful Mind thing where all the numbers and shit were flowing across the screen, and I was like drawing with a white marker on my windows and trying to figure out the optimal party. It was just so fun. It was like approaching a paint process from like a gaming kind of metagaming, but not really, but just what's a fun, balanced, cool looking party you could envision in a shitty D&D movie. Like this is what the party would look like. And so there's equal representation. We've got 2 females, 2 males. We've got the support / healer character. We've got the tank. We've got the rogue to do heavy burst damage. And then we've got the very nimble, movable, consistent DPS in the archer that can always be peppering arrows. And then I was like, oh, fuck, I got to paint these 4 real quick. How am I going to do that? And so I kind of worked in and evolved my speed painting system that I've been kind of constantly tweaking over the last year or two, and kind of came to a revelation. And I tried to keep it to 3 steps and really focused on 2 little aspects of those 3 steps that I adjusted, and I saw a big improvement in the final product over very little change in the painting process. So we'll talk about those steps in the after party. But the key thing is the overarching key aspect of this that I think is really upped the speed painting final product is, of the 3 steps, each of those steps is layering depth of color over top of the previous step. And so you're getting depth of color at each process that makes the model look like it has more going on. There's more things that are more interesting, so it doesn't feel as much like speed painting. That's the little trick.
Okay, I'm excited to figure out more about what that means at the after party. And if you don't know what the after party is, for our patrons, for $5 a month, you get access to 20 to 30 minutes of extra content per episode. And we've been doing this for the entire history of the podcast. So if you go on the Patreon, you can see all of them. And we talk about a couple different things. One of those things is new techniques, methods, tools we've tried out in the hobby and the results of those trials. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But that is one of the 3 segments in the after party if you want to check it out.
Yes. So
they look really good. They also have a little bit of a classic old school John Nina's flair of everything being a little warm.
Yeah, I do. And
I haven't done that in a while. You kind of gotten away from that.
Yeah, I know. And that's part of step 1 of the 3-step process.
Okay.
And then building on that warmth in each successive step. So yes, but the cool thing about this is you could replicate this, the process, and not use warm colors. It's just about the method you want to go with, and then understanding how you're working with that in each step. So
okay.
So yeah, it was fun, and it's like 45 minutes a model when I did them all together. It would have been more per model if you just did one model, because you can, especially step 1, you can batch paint, and that's using the airbrush. So anytime you can batch paint with an airbrush, you're maximizing the time when you're not changing out and cleaning your airbrush. And
Yeah.
so, you know,
That's true.
That's very efficient. Oh, speaking of the devil, Adam Poots is messaging me right now.
Ask Adam if he has a message for our podcast listeners. We'll wait.
He's talking about the ball sacks on the knees.
Oh yeah,
the rogue
Squid Man. I want to talk about Squid Man. What's going on with that guy's fucking knees, dude? He's got Leia buns on his head too. Like, what's going on?
Okay, so this is an example of a modular character from Kingdom Death Monster, and this is one of the reasons I just fucking fell in love with this game when I first learned about it. So in the game, when you kill monsters, you can collect resources. So you like collect its teeth and its gonads and its liver, and I'm not even fucking making this shit up. You want a fucking goat penis? You can collect that. And so in the game, then you can use those resources to take them back to your settlement. You can improve your different like shops and things and start new ones. And then you can craft items. You can craft consumable items. You can use like bombs and shit, poisons and potions. You can also craft armor and weapons. And this dude is a modular character from the brand new expansion, Frog Dog. And so you get to pick like his legs, his torso, his head, the weapons he's wielding, and everything. So I just really love the idea that you can, you know, the character that you kitted out throughout the game. And if you own all the expansions, you can like mix and match all the characters together too. So it's like he's got the chest from the White Lion, he's got the legs from the Frog Dog, which come with testicle knee pads. And so this is a brand new expansion. I haven't played it yet, and I also didn't go in and give myself spoilers on what the items did and what exactly those things were. I have no idea what the thing, his earphones and his respirator. I assume he's just trying to prevent COVID, but and then his fucking knee testes. So I didn't know what they were exactly or what purpose they have. So I just kind of like painted them like sickly balls with big veins on them.
Yeah, he's ready for rollerblading later on.
It's like I was like, well, you know what I could do is like I could kind of like understate them, make them like a mid-tone brown or a neutral. I'm like, no, we're gonna go like a shiny off-white with the sickly blue-green and red veins on them. Okay. Come on, dude. Yeah. This is what we're here for, the craziness. But
it's KDM, baby.
Yeah, this is a wild, wild world. And they've gotten actually better in their modular models. You can see he's got more action like on the torso and stuff where he's like going off of a thing. He's leaned forward and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I like that element of KDM. I've always liked people paint up whole armor sets. You know,
I know.
You can see them all, and it's really cool. It's a very like plug and play feeling you get when playing an RPG.
Yeah. I always thought too, like if there was like an MVP, if I made it all the way through a campaign and I had like one character that like they made it all the way through, they were there from like the beginning or close to the beginning, and they ended up being like a pivotal character and they never died, that at the end of the campaign I would then build whatever their final gear setup was. Mm-hmm. I would build them and paint them, and they'd be like in the Hall of Heroes of having made it through, and this is whatever. And then like, you could have like the laminated gear sheet or whatever. I don't know exactly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like the idea of that is so cool to me for a game that's got replayability with multiple campaigns, that you could have these characters and stuff. So and have physical versions of them.
Yeah, that is super cool. It reminds me when someone like has like a real cool armor set and like World of Warcraft and they like take a picture of it and like they share it with their friends. It's like, oh, I just got the last piece of whatever this set is from whoever it is. And it's like, yeah, it kind of reminds me of that a lot.
Bro, the best part of World of Warcraft is getting a fucking sweet ass Molten Core gear or a Nixia gear, and then you go back and you hang out in Ogremore by the auction house so everyone oogles over your sweet ass new weapon.
Either you stand by the auction house or you stand right outside so you can just duel people.
Yeah, exactly. My play was to jump on top of the mailbox outside the bank. Yeah. No one can be checking their mail without looking at me up here.
You just unlocked a fucking core memory, bro. Like, I totally forgot about that mailbox. Oh my god. All right, out of the main topic. Last week we shat upon Games Workshop, but this week we're gonna spread some love because, you know, in the real world, everything is not black and white, and there are shades of gray. And there are reasons, valid and real reasons, to critique Games Workshop, the company, and valid and real reasons to love what they do. And so we're going to talk today about the things that they do that we love.
Yes, because like all things, a combination of flavors tastes better. So with our salt from last episode, we will balance it with the sweet.
A little bit of Sweet Bay.
It's kind of like kettle corn.
Oh, Kettle corn is a magical thing.
Yeah, I know, dude. Yeah, dude.
I've been eating so much kettle corn, bro. Okay, anyways, you wrote down an entire comprehensive list, and I feel like you've hit everything. So
It was more like me trying to make sure I hit the high points, and then so if there was a certain thing, we wouldn't miss it. But
yeah,
maybe the specifics on these is we would come and go. Let's just start off with the obvious, the elephant in the room, and we can break it down further. This was one I really wanted to have more breakdown in.
sure.
But the obvious thing we all love about Games Workshop, and if you don't love this, then you're a fool, is the fucking models.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it goes without saying.
You can say that they don't appeal to your specific aesthetic tastes. I totally respect that. But in terms of how fucking cool these models are and the quality of those models, and that's the first thing I want to talk about is quality. Say what you want. They're expensive. The game is bad, or say whatever you want. But the quality and their commitment to increasing quality, even when by and large they don't have competition on their level of their quality, they've still improved. And quality, not only in the quality of the plastic kits, in how sharp the details are, how well defined everything is, how smooth everything is, how little actual mold lines and stuff that has greatly improved over time. But not just that, but the commitment to the quality of the sculpts. So that's two parts. One
is the engineering. One is the artistry, right?
One is the artistry.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you have any? You think those go hand in hand? Do you think one is better than the other? One more important?
Absolutely not. No, they're both very important for usability's sake, for the end user to be able to put your model together well and understand what's going on. And I also like how they retrofit their kits in such a way that if they know a kit is more likely to be purchased by a beginner, they make the kit easier to assemble.
Yeah.
And that is a level of market research that is not found really, I don't think, anywhere else in our industry. I think people have a way of manufacturing models, and they do that for their entire range, but not for GW. They have a push fit thing that, maybe is not easy to use all the time, but it makes it a lot easier to put them all together. Literally, those models can go together without glue, and who the hell's going to take them apart? You don't even need to use glue to put those things together, and they will stay together forever. They're very nice pressure fit, and everything goes together so nicely. The seams are so nice. The mold lines are so minimal. So that makes the enjoying of the product so much better. There's one thing of looking at the box and loving it, and then taking it out and having a bad experience, dealing with it, but they minimize that as much as possible. So I think they go hand in hand. They're both very important.
Yeah, when you think about the history of model making and Gundams and even Games Workshop and other brands, you'd see this box and there'd be an awesome picture on the front and it would just look so badass. And I can just picture the anime art from any freaking Gundam kit. But if you looked at them historically, oh my gosh, wow, whatever. And then you go home and you take it apart and you start to put it together and the thing just looked like a static fucking skeleton. There was no dynamics. It didn't look cool like the cover. It was just what you promised me and then what the final product was were not the same thing. Now, that is evolved for all sorts of things, Gundam included, in much more dynamic and posable things and stuff. But Games Workshop has really been the spearhead in the miniature hobby in that. And I think that a big part of the artistic growth and from a sculpting standpoint has really been possible because of the engineering. Because it used to be, if you think about it, because of the technology, you had to have static poses that were basically two-dimensional, like paper dolls.
Right. Basically, the model can exist on a single plane if you look at it from the side. That was kind of like a soft requirement.
Right. And so it went from being able to add more 3 dimensions in metal molds, which even other companies like Confrontation by Rackham had much more dynamic poses in metal and working in 3-dimensional space. They surpassed Games Workshop at a point. But Games Workshop pushing into plastic and then the engineering that they've brought in and then actually having the artists sculpt these things that are just they're bent over. The one leg's in the air. You can still have the whole underneath of their skirty bits are all sculpted. They look so much more dynamic than they used to before. And I think the models is it's the reason why. It's the only reason why.
It's an industry standard is really what it is. They set the standard for what is possible in that scale, which comes down to the manufacturing method, and it comes down to how they're sculpted, what details they choose to enunciate, what details they choose to exaggerate to make it easier for the painter. And also, there was an awkward teenage phase when they first started doing digital sculpting, maybe like a decade ago, maybe 15 years ago. I don't know how long ago it was, but they really struggled with weird things like branches and leaves and smoke and like kind of things like that. But then over time, they've gotten better and better. There was a phase where they probably littered their models with too many details, like a higher percentage of minis they came out with, say 80%, were just over detailed. But now that percentage has come down, and they make a lot more tasteful models, paintable models, whereas it's a good hybrid between this is a great mini to paint, it shows off your manufacturing process, and it allows your heavy metal painters to produce a beautiful box art, but it also isn't fucking impossible to paint for like your average pleb. So like they really care about that element of their business. It's very clear, and they do improve, even though like you said, they're on top.
Yeah, and that hit on one of my bullet points that we can just loop into here, which is the enjoyability to paint. If you paint a bunch of models from a bunch of different games, if you kind of pay attention to it, of how much the model is assisting you in its ability to paint and is enjoyable because of restraint shown and definition.
Definition is a huge one.
Not being able to, not having to question what is this or what am I supposed to paint it, or it's kind of melding into the thing next to it. Where do I stop one, start the other?
Yes.
You know, and just how they use shapes in the form of being approachable for painting, or actually painting will make the shapes look better. That's a big thing that I think that like if you paint a Astra Militarum guy, and then you were to paint like a regular rebel soldier from like Star Wars
Legion, Shatterpoint,
either one of those, either they're a similar military-ish guy. You may think that just looking at them that they, roughly they're about the same or similar. It's not the same animal. It is like, it's just so much more enjoyable to paint. It's more defined. You really can understand and have a level of confidence. That's a big part of it for me, is like, I feel that I can approach a Games Workshop model with more confidence as a painter, not in my painting ability, but just confidence that I will know the decisions that I need to make and then make those decisions instead of scratching my head over them. And so I really, really find that. Also, I think there's a part of that ties into them having their own in-house heavy metal team. So there's a communication lines between the sculpting teams and the painting teams that allow for growth within both.
Yeah, and also some of the sculptors are prolific painters.
Yeah.
And so that information just happens naturally. They don't even need to necessarily talk to people about it because they came from that background.
Yeah, so you can have that. And we see that so often in, not to shit on 3D printing companies that just produce STLs every month or however long for you to paint, that so many of those are not approached from the aspect of painting.
Right.
And Games Workshop, that's a point for them. And it's not something if maybe you're not experienced or you don't know what you're looking for, or you're just looking at a model without knowing the miniature painting hobby, that you wouldn't be aware of. But when you get in there and you want to sit down and enjoy your time at the painting desk, I mean, I am much more confident that I'm going to enjoy my time at the painting desk when it's a Games Workshop model versus something else. Not that there aren't awesome ones, but,
at the very least, the details they chose to include on the model are going to be very readable, and they're going to be very readable even after several layers of paint. Like that's one thing that's huge, is that a lot of people sometimes, like when they make a model, some of the shallower details will vanish after a few layers of blending and futzing and feathering and stuff. But for GW, they really enunciated that stuff enough to the point where you can go through several iterations of painting and not lose detail. That's important. That makes painting easier and enjoyable.
Another thing I want to talk about with painting, and this kind of goes for their overall IP, but I want to talk about it more with miniatures, it was their distinct style. I give Games Workshop a lot of respect, and I know that there is a flip side of this coin of them just like, everything they do, they're trying to be able to copyright, so no one can take their version of Spacemen and say, and there's just knockoff Space Marines or Eldar or whatever. But like the way that they design their factions and their models and everything feels fairly cohesive. I really respect that they have a distinct visual style to their games and the factions within their games. And it's a bloodline that runs through. It is well thought out that, if it is a vehicle that's for Space Marines, I could tell you if it's a brand new one and you don't put a Space Marine in the picture and it's unpainted, I could tell you what faction that's for by design, even though it doesn't use any of the shapes that are all the same shapes that are on a Space Marine. Just like the distinctive style that keeps things cohesive, that makes it feel unique. It makes it feel like it's not generic space gun, right? A plasma rifle is a plasma rifle, and that has a distinct style and weight and feel, and all the details in it are about thought. When you think of like the Eldar pistols, they kind of look like a gourd shape.
Right.
Like it's a distinct style and things are thought through, and it's not just like whoever was there that day that had to sketch that out and whatever thing they did, that's just what the pistol looks like for that faction. Like it feels like the distinct visual style is, I really appreciate it. Again, you may not like how they do their orcs. You may not like how they do their Cadians or whatever, but you can't argue that they're not
consistent
and committed to it.
Yeah.
Nothing looks generic in that game, in their games, other than things like their regular skeletons or regular zombies. And even they try to do it with zombies with having like the cemetery stones and the roots and shit. And I think that's fucking stupid. I want those to be more generic. But I respect that they're nothing is truly generic in their world.
Yeah. Even honestly, even when it comes to the game, they care, I think, a great deal about the look and feel of their entire product range, and they want consistency. So aesthetically, there is consistency in the range, and also in the entire like AOS and 40K in general, but also in their games. Their games have a very consistent feel for the last 2 decades. The games have played similarly, and so they like that consistency a lot.
Maybe to their own detriment.
Sometimes.
It's like, but I totally get their thought of like, you haven't played Warhammer since you were a kid, or you haven't played Warhammer in a decade. When you sit down and you play, and it's 6 editions later, there's things you're going to need to learn. There's things that have changed, but it still feels like Warhammer.
Right.
As wishy-washy as that term is.
Yeah, no, it's important, right? It's like you're kind of like playing a game of chicken, right? It's like, how much can I change before this game doesn't feel like the game it once was? And so it's a difficult thing, but they do think about it, and they kind of play the more safe route with the game itself. But that's a positive thing for people who want consistency. One small thing that I enjoy about GW is an element of their website. I know the website gets shit on endlessly, but have you guys ever looked at any other company's website before? It's a fucking joke. Half the time, it's a fucking joke. It's the goddamn from the 90s. But anyways, what I like about GW's website is they have painted versions of every single model. Maybe not every single. Like 95% of their catalog on the site. And it's on a white background. And you can look at every single model in the kit painted. Half of them are like 360. You can see the entire sprue. The painted models are on the box art. So you can look at them on the shelves of stores. You mentioned Gundam kits earlier. One of my huge pet peeves about Gundam kits, at least the boxes that I pick up when I'm at an LGS, is the front cover is a nice glossy shot of the concept art, but it's just the top lid. The box the sprue is in is a brown cardboard box. So when you flip it over, there's nothing. There's nothing on the back. I can't see the model, which that is such a huge sin to me. Like for so many.
And then good luck pulling out your phone and trying to find that exact model.
Yeah. I want to see the physical thing. I don't necessarily care if it's painted or not.
Yeah.
I think maybe I prefer to be painted, but like it doesn't matter either way. I want to see the physical thing and the picture of it either on the box or on the website, and I want to be easy to find, so they do that, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. I do appreciate that, like considering how much detail about what you're buying that you would want access to, they typically will give you 10% more, right? If you're like, okay, I want to see what the models look like in there. I'd like to see them painted. okay, we'll give you all of that for every model that's in that kit. And we're also going to give you a 360 of at least one of the models in the kit. And we're going to show you the sprues. And we're going to show you, like, you know, we're going to break down everything that's included in the box. We're going to tell you the base size. Like, it's little things, but it's like, I appreciate that any possible question I have that'll help me in decision making of, do I want to buy this or not? That they give you that. And it's really important.
Yeah.
And they've evolved their website over the years, and now it's at another recent-ish iteration that I'm back to, like, scrambling to find what I want to find on there again, but I know I'll get it because it feels like their website seems like it's pushing you down certain routes from wanting you to spend money more than it used to be, instead of just like, it used to not take me 4 clicks to be able to get to a specific faction in a specific game.
Okay.
And now it's
I see
like,
what you're saying.
it's more clicks to get where I want to get.
Okay.
It used to just be, it's like drop down 40K, all the factions. And now it's not that easy, but I mean, it's not worlds different. I want to real quick, the last things I want to talk about, their models before we get away from this entirely.
Sure.
The one is the variety and the amount. Now, this kind of goes in with the factions in a distinct style, but like, if there's a certain kind of aesthetic or a certain kind of faction that appeals to you, they probably have it in the game. Like,
Sure.
It's really hard that if you're interested in sci-fi games, to not find a 40K faction that excites you.
Yeah, and if it's not a whole faction, you might find a smaller like cell like inside of a skirmish game. Because like if you could go to Kill Team, now your options are expanded to a lot of the ranges in the game, but even more that don't exist. Like navigators, for instance, like of giant spaceships. That's not a thing you can play in 40K, but you can in Kill Team. So many options.
Or like Kroot, you could play a Tau army and they're all Kroot, so they're all lizard alien weirdo people from Star Wars universe. You could do that. So that was one thing, and then the sheer amount of models.
Are you gonna move on from that topic? Because I have a thing to dovetail off of that.
Please do.
I think something people take for granted is because of the volume of consistent style that GW has in their portfolio, it allows for a whole new way to interact with this hobby that people take for granted. Kit bashing. Try to kit bash a Shatterpoint model. It's possible, but it is extremely limited, right? They've made models for a year. GW has made models for 3 decades. And you can take all of those bits, and for the most part, they work together, which gives you so many options. And there are whole Instagram accounts, YouTube channels dedicated to kit bashing, making models that I'm like, holy shit, that should be a model in their range that someone like kind of imagined because of the possibility, because of the catalog. That's a huge thing.
Yeah, and Games Workshop does not, like, they're not on the forefront of kit bashing for their own products. They're not like putting out
Kit bashing
20
guides.
kit bashing sprues, or it's like $25 for 3 sprues, and they're just a bunch of awesome bits that you could be used for whatever.
But they fucking could.
And they would sell like fucking hotcakes
Some
if they
skulls,
did.
some helmets, some knives, some guns. Who knows? Who knows, dude?
Yes.
The options are limitless.
Yes, but you're right that it is a strong value that it doesn't exist to this level in the miniature hobby. I mean, it does in like historicals and that kind of stuff.
Probably, yeah.
But it's such a kind of like a bloodline of the history and like a level of pride in your ability to really customize things for yourself. That's a great thing. I didn't write that down, but I really like that. That also ties into my other thing I had on here, which was the sheer amount of models. Like, dude, you know what's better than some? More. And they have more. There's always more, and they're always releasing more. And yes, you can feel like, oh, that means that they're just trying to suck money out of us. But since when is...
I can't knock them for that, dude.
I can't knock them for giving me options.
Right. And that they are a for-profit company. They are going to make products. You cannot stop that, you know? Just don't buy them if you don't want them at the moment. But you can't knock a for-profit company for making things to be purchased. As long as they're not like, you know, obviously like lies or scams or whatever. And they're not. They're fucking plastic models. But yeah, like... Sure, like it's amazing. It's an amazing volume. Like
I don't know. When I bought all those Space Marines from Temu, they didn't come out with the greatest quality when they hit my doorstep.
Yeah.
And the final thing on models, and this kind of goes in line with all of their products, but I put it under the umbrella of models, but it also goes with their primer, their paints, their brushes, their other bullshit extendery things, their books, whatever, is availability. You cannot understate the value of availability for you to be able to buy their products. If you can get it, if you can see it in the store, if you can easily order it no matter which region of the world you're in, you may not be happy with the price tag, but you know that it's available for you to get with a 2 clicks away or a 5-minute or 35-minute drive to a store. If there is a hobby store in your area, they've got Games Workshop. And that's cool.
Yeah.
You know,
that is cool. And that also, I think, is going to, again, dovetail into the thing that I appreciate the most about GW because of that accessibility is just the work they do for our hobby, right? Like, people discover miniatures because of the video games they make, the books they make, the Magic the Gathering collaborations they orchestrate. They do marketing work for the hobby that supports what I do, what all YouTubers do, because they expand the hobby, which then, you know, are people that watch YouTube videos. And of course, it's what's it when we help each other out? What's that called? A relationship, a symbiotic relationship. Of course, we do a little bit of it as well, but I don't know if it's to the scale of what they have done and also what they have done just for history, right? This hobby exists in the capacity it does because they did the work 2 decades ago to bring it to this area, you know? I am a YouTuber because of GW. Like, I would not make a YouTube channel about this stuff if I hadn't discovered it and had the love for it, right? And maybe that's true for a lot of YouTubers. I don't want to speak for all of them, but like, yeah. So like they do, because of how accessible it is and because of how broad the IP is and how many different cookie jars they have their hands in, this hobby is bigger and richer and fuller for it. So for that, I think that's the ultimate thing they could ever do for our hobby.
Yeah. My brain keeps going back to this quote or line that is often said in sports ball. It says the greatest ability you can have is availability.
Yeah.
Is if you are not out there and you can't, it kind of speaks to like, if you can't play, it doesn't matter how good you are.
Right.
If you can't be in front of a potential young kid that would love this and doesn't even know it yet, if you don't get in front of them, you're never going to know that. And tying this to, you don't need to, when we talk about things we love about Games Workshop, you don't need to love Games Workshop, but you can still
appreciate
the fact that the games that are put out new each year, the success that other companies have is kind of because of Games Workshop.
Literally, the employees from many of those companies came from Games Workshop. Like a lot of those, there's a reason why there are so many gaming companies in Nottingham, UK, this small-ish city in England. It's because a lot of them are prior employees of GW. So yeah, I think there's a lot of appreciation that can come from that one topic.
All right, so that was all of my stuff that was mostly under the orb of around models, the most important thing. I didn't talk about their paints and stuff, but there was a time where them being creators of and kind of formulating the kind of paint and the consistency and the coverage and all that stuff was very, very valuable. Not anymore necessarily, but like I think in terms of the foundation of our hobby, they were really pivotal in that. But is there anything else in around the modular that you want to discuss, or you want to move on?
I can't think of anything right now, but if I do, I'll bring it up.
Okay. Next thing I want to talk about, it pains me to say. It really does. I'm not going to say the L word, but I wrote it down as the established world. It feels like there's depth. It feels like there is effort. It feels like there's a history. It feels like it's not generic spaceman in a generic space world. It feels like it's not generic ripoff of J.R.R. Tolkien. It feels like there is a story there. There is a reason behind each faction do what they do. There's a reason behind why they hate this, that, or the other guy. I don't really care, but there's something to me that I appreciate that effort has been put in, that there's been all these books written, that there's all this amazing artwork done depicting this battle and these scenes, and it just makes all of it feel more like it's got more weight to it. Like there's more reason for me to be excited, to be invested, to want to dig in more. I know it could be there if that interests me, and I appreciate that that's there. If it wasn't there, it would feel almost like you're working on a house of cards that it looks great from the outside, but like there's not the depth, and the people that want the depth will just feel it lacking.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't ever really go that deep on the lore, but there's enough there for me to use it as like an artistic inspiration. You know? Like the info they have in a codex, for instance, about like a range, like that is money. Like that allows someone like me to read through that and get a lot of fun ideas just based off of like that kind of flavor. Like beyond the books, I can't say a whole lot. I've read a couple when I was little, but I don't do too many anymore. But yeah, there's enough there to be helpful. And also, I think it really anchors the design of like a particular model range, right? It's like if you want your stuff to be consistent and make sense, and make sense for the lore that you've created, you're probably going to design models that support that lore that you've created and not break it. So then maybe that also contributes to the consistency piece we're talking about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Aesthetically, yeah.
And I think a lot of the points here do have some spiderweb connections.
Sure, yeah.
You know, and I think that makes each of them more valuable because they don't have to stand on their own. That like GW does this one thing well. It's actually like they kind of build off of each other and they strengthen the whole. And I don't think that's just happenstance. I think that was a purpose of their business direction. And as much as we can be frustrated about the decisions that Games Workshop makes as a company, there's a lot of things that maybe go unnoticed or that we don't appreciate as much that are business decisions that are tying to strengthening the brand as a whole. And, you know, it's easy to throw stones, and there's plenty of things to throw stones at for the company, but you know,
Watch our last episode.
Just watch our last episode. Yeah, there's a reason that one came before this one because that one was just so much more obvious.
I mean, you could do probably the same thing about Wizards, right?
Oh God, we want to get into Wizards of the Coast.
I mean, I'm saying you can make both videos, right?
Yeah, I can make both videos.
Appreciation and a thing you don't like about the company. Yeah.
Yes. So that's it. I didn't say the L word. Established world. You got one on the top of your head?
Beyond the miniatures and just how accessible they make the hobby to everyone. No, I got nothing. I think I'm coming up blank now, but I could probably come up with a few more.
Okay, I got some more here. I will lob one over and I'll see what your immediate response is. Ready?
Ready.
The fact that the game is heavily played. Go.
Is that? Yeah. I mean, yes. That is a good thing. It gives people opportunity to play the game. It gives opportunities for the gaming world to watch that be played, like in videos and on live streams. It's great that there is a consistent system that people invest in, so you can more reliably find games. Absolutely, it's a positive.
Yeah, I feel like it helps reinforce my decision to buy a new kit.
Especially if it's expensive, right?
Yeah, to start a new army. Because I know that if there is a gaming community within a 50-mile radius of where you live, it probably includes Warhammer 40K and or Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
You know, like you just know that like if my point is that I'd like to play with these someday, even if I don't know when or ever, I know I can because it's a live game. It's a game that's it's being actively played in all sorts of places around the world, not just at the major metropolitan areas, you know? And so I think that it's a pretty big deal that the game it kind of goes hand in hand with the fact that the game's popular, but there's a lot of popular things that, I mean, Pokemon's popular. There's fucking nobody's played Pokemon, so
I can't speak to that. But yeah, I mean, just the mere fact, not even that it's popular, but that a game exists attached to the models is a bonus for a lot of people, right? Because of that feeling you just shared. It's like, I can use these things beyond just painting them to play a game with them. Like that is a huge bonus for a lot of people. Not so much me. I just like the models because they're pretty. And then if the game is good as well, then that's like a bonus for me. Some games I'll just play because the game is good. I think Guild Ball is one of those games. I didn't really feel attached to those models like in a way that I feel attached to GW stuff, like vampires and whatnot. But for the most part, a lot of people really value when there's a game attached to miniatures.
What if there was a vampire guild in Guild Ball?
I'd cream.
Dude, you made me think of it, like the fact that there's a game attached to it. And maybe like, bro, what if when we were kids and you had bought all your Ninja Turtles, you had your big Ninja Turtle collection? Yeah. What if like in the packaging for each Ninja Turtles was a quick, like, four little tiny page rules of playing a game with Ninja Turtles. Instead of just make believe, like, the Ninja Turtle's here and Shredder's here, and he's going to jump off the mountain, which is actually just my pillow, you know, and whatever. And then they're going to, what if there was a freaking game and, like, you could have a bit of structure to your organized play as a kid and stuff. It was easy rules a kid could understand. And, like, fuck, I just came up with the greatest idea of all time.
Would you read those rules as that aged kid?
If they were simple enough that I could figure them out at 8 years old, and it had just a bit of structure, but it wasn't like overwhelming. This is totally $1 million idea. It's like, it's action figures with rules that who cares? You know, you can play it or not play it, but there's totally rules for your G.I. Joe to fight the Transformer. And then, oh man, this is the greatest idea ever. So yeah, like the fact that, like, these are fucking beautiful little toys that we paint up. But we can say the reason why we collect them all and we spend a ridiculous amount of money is because, they're for a game. It's for a real hobby of strategy and wartime generalism.
Yes, they allow us to give reasons to the normies for why we spend gratuitous amounts of money on plastic toy soldiers.
Yes, exactly.
That's all I need it for. You know? It could be a book with a bunch of blank pages. I'd just be like, look, see.
You say totally. It's in the book. Don't open the book.
Don't open the book.
Like, I wrote down history and nostalgia. Is that a thing? You kind of touched on it about the game being around for 30 years and the company and the IPs and all that.
Yeah,
like,
nostalgia is an interesting one that I'm kind of curious for you to talk more about.
I just wrote it down. I don't have the nostalgia, but it sounded like something someone would say.
Well, you're right. You're right in that they've been around so long and gone through so many kinds of, like, iterations that there are nostalgic things about them, like the way that old pewter models were assembled. Like, there's kind of a cool legacy there about the minis and other things. So, like, that definitely is a cool thing people like about the hobby. Like, again, there's a lot of ways to enjoy GW, right? Like, you can enjoy the old pewter, old hammer, Mordheim stuff. You can enjoy the newfangled 40K with their Primaris Space Marines. Like, you can enjoy the squatty, old school Space Marines. Like, there's a lot of things, and maybe that's one thing to discuss, is there are many ways to interact with the brand of GW and make it your own, not just from picking a faction, but also like a timeline. Like, are you the kind of person that likes to hunt for stuff? You like to find old pewter models and put together like a version of Mordheim, all these other people that are really into that property and that kind of more like I don't want to call it a hipster gamer. That's effectively what it is. Like, do you like that hunt? You know, that's a thing people really enjoy. Or do you like the polish? You know, are you the kind of person that listens to thrash metal from the 80s that sounds like dog shit half the time? Or do you like that clean, new deathcore where the drummer uses pads and every single hit on that kick drum sounds the exact same and it's like fucking robots playing music, you know? There's, you know, and then everyone in between, you know, you can kind of make it what you want in many ways.
I prefer to just listen to Corey Feldman music.
Corey Feldman, yes.
If you haven't exposed yourself to that little gem in the history of United States Americana rock, oh boy.
Ooh, boy.
Do yourself a favor.
I'd rather listen to Necrophagist.
Or Goblinomicon.
Or yeah, sure.
Tying to nostalgia and digging deep, and this kind of deals with the depth of the world and all that.
You almost said it.
I almost said it. I caught myself. I started to say it. My body had a response to the word. Threw up in my mouth a little bit. It's like this really obscure faction offshoot of Space Wolves, man. They only existed in one frozen planet because they were left there 3,000 years ago and they were forced to survive on their own urine and groundhogs for 3,000 years. And now they're no longer the Space Wolves, they're the Space Hogs.
Hey, are you kind of shitting on wolfing right now? That's the coolest part of Space Wolves.
I don't know. They didn't eat groundhogs and drink their own urine for 3,000 years.
They might have.
Yeah, it's a space. I'm just telling you.
Could you imagine?
I just gave you the full background for Space Hogs, the new and upcoming offshoot of Space Wolves.
Space Hogs. Dude, I wonder what kind of chemicals are in Space Marine pee.
I mean, it comes out looking and tasting like Red Bull, I assume. Red Bull already tastes like pennies, so it's just I just assume that's what Space Marine pee is made of.
Probably.
Did I have anything else? Okay, I have two more things. I wrote down constant updates / improvements ?
Yeah, updates definitely. Yeah, changes.
So yeah, the game always feels fresh and maybe it's too much too soon. And we talked a bit about the negativity of the constant changes and stuff last episode, but like it doesn't ever feel stagnant, or did they forget it, or is the game dying? Like you never get a second to breathe to feel that with the game, because it just feels like they're in, whether you agree with it or not and the decisions they make, that it just feels like they're committed to the game. And that's probably because they just want to keep doing that so you keep spending more money. But the feeling like, oh, this came out, it was overpowered, they're going to nerf it. This is a brand new faction that's coming out and there's new rules. It's very cool. Check that out. Or, oh, there's a new edition coming out. Or, oh, there's another thing, whatever, that was in a White Dwarf and now it gives me a new battalion for my Skaven, and now I get to relook at how I want to build a different list and how these things now work better and stuff. There is always something to do with the game. And so to me, it feels like trying to drink from a fire hose, but I'd rather drink from a fire hose than an 80-year-old man's enlarged prostate. It's just a constant trickle. I don't want that.
That's the worst image. You just cursed everyone visually. Oh my God. Honestly, I can't even remember what you were saying because I'm just imagining that.
It's not important. It's not important. So I appreciate the constant updates to make the game just constantly feel like it's alive, that they have their thumb on the pulse, even if they're like checking the pulse from your pinky toe. At least
you also appreciate the fact that it's not just the game is getting updated, it's also like the ranges are being updated like constantly, right?
Yeah.
Okay, obviously, yeah.
Different products. It could be like, doing contrast paints, doing contrast paint 2.0, having the world's most ridiculous not usable tools that they create, this, that, and the other. It's like there's always something that's going on, new terrain things.
Yeah, and actually, that was the thing you just reminded me of that I want to touch on. We didn't want to talk about like the tools and materials that GW has created. And you can say whatever you want about contrast paint and like, oh, this has existed beforehand. You just had to take an ink and mix it with dish soap and then put in some medium that I found in Costco in 2005. No, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Contrast paint exists, and its various permutations and other companies exist because GW made it what it is. And also, furthermore, I think that because contrast paint exists, we see more painted stuff.
Yeah.
So the goal of that product range was achieved. And I mean, I can speak from experience. I know people, Dan Molson's one of them, who's not huge on painting. They're big on kit bashing. They're big on playing games, but painting is not an important thing to them. Dan is painting minis now to completion on repeat because of things like contrast paint. It's not what he uses exclusively, but that's his daily driver, Mm-hmm. And I bet for a lot of fucking people that is. And so even if I don't use contrast paint and I don't necessarily like its effect, I love that it makes painting miniatures more accessible for more people in this hobby, and we could see more painted stuff. I love that. And then everyone else followed suit. So come on. And that's an indicator that's a great idea anyways. But yeah, contrast paint, that was a great innovation in air quotes that made the hobby more accessible even more than they already do it.
Yeah. You could probably even go back to like when at the origin of Games Workshop that there probably wasn't miniature paint as we know it today, or at least not easily accessible, or the formula being what it is in terms of flow and coverage and color and all that kind of stuff as when they started it back then. So, it's not just contrast paint, but that's a great example. Like the shades. Remember when they
washes, yeah,
washes when they did
shades,
null oil and stuff. They had the inks before, you had your good old chestnut ink and all that kind of stuff, but then washes were different from their inks. Their inks were just acrylic inks, but like they've brought things to the hobby side that, whether you use it or not, it's good to respect. You gotta respect the washes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if we had an acrylic water-based wash from a company. Like you had enamel washes and oil washes for like model kit stuff. I don't think oil washes existed as like a purchasable product, but no. I'm pretty sure enamel washes might have. I think to me has been around for a long time, but acrylic water-based washes, I don't know if those really existed before GW decided to make them.
Right.
So great innovation in the painting space as well, making the hobby more accessible.
Yeah. The final thing I have on this list, and we've touched on this a little bit when you talked about things like video games and crossover or whatever, but I just wrote down media and excitement. When they come out with a new like video for like, remember when the Leviathan box dropped, or like when new Age of Sigmar 4.0 dropped it, and they give you a fucking movie. It's like a 3-minute movie, and the quality of the animation and the badass like visuals and seeing the different figures in this high quality thing of a game you like in the world you like. It's just like the ability to really like lean into letting you see the cool things that you already love or you might be interested in if you got into our hobby. I mean, nobody does it like they do it. I mean, there are other companies that are in similar nerdy fashion and stuff. Fuck, Dungeons and Dragons, when they come out with a new book or a new edition, they don't bring out a fucking video as badass as that Leviathan video. Like, it's legit, like they put in money to make the game look as fucking cool as possible. And I respect that.
Yeah. And related to that, they're like, one of the reasons that I'm enjoying Star Wars so much is because there are so many ways to interact with Star Wars. There are RPGs, there are video games, there are books, there are comics, there are movies.
Breakfast cereals.
There's breakfast cereals. There's fucking lunchboxes. You know, there's everything. There's fucking everything. And that's kind of the same thing with GW.
Tube socks.
There's tube socks. There's candles. There's fucking candles, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding about that one. There's fucking there's RPGs. There's games. There are like animated shorts. There are so many ways to enjoy the thing that you like. And that is amazing, because that kind of like, I don't like to do one thing forever. You know, I like to kind of bop around a little bit. And because they give you the ability to bop, you can bop, you know, and you can keep enjoying the thing that you enjoy, but just in different ways. You get a little different flavors, a little Neapolitan over here, a little mint over here. Wow. It's amazing.
Wow. Do they, it makes me think, do they sell Warhammer onesie feety pajamas? Because I would buy one of those.
Oh yeah, well, what would the design of it be? What would your onesie be?
It would be a Plague Marine armor, and on the butt flap there'd be a Nurgle attached, but then it would be like those old-timey onesie pajamas where there's buttons where you can open the butt flap, and then when you opened it and pulled down the butt flap, there'd be a different Nurgle in there holding his nose because you have a stinky butt.
I thought we were gonna say we would see your ass, but no.
Yeah, well, you would see my ass.
Oh. Okay.
What if you had a Slanesh onesie where it just looked like a
stop
pale
right there. Yeah, this is a show for children, John.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's just like they just inundated with cool stuff.
Yeah,
you know, you want it, they got it, and it only costs you money in your soul.
Yeah, yeah.
That is all the things we love about Games Workshop. There's nothing that we love that we didn't mention here. Possibly, did we miss anything? Is there anything that you?
I love you when you ask this question.
Is there anything that you appreciate that we missed? I'm sure there's an important thing, or maybe it's just something specifically for you. It could be just like a little detail. It's just like, I really like how on the Griffins they kind of look like dogs. I like that. Okay, I want to hear that. That's cool. They do animals now. They do more animal models. Maybe you appreciate that. I don't know. Is there something that we missed?
They make the best 32mm vampire models.
Yeah, I don't think I can disagree.
With like any kind of consistency, maybe a range here and there. It's got a banger, but GW's got multiple vampire bangers. So that's definitely a personal one for me.
Bro, that's all you need.
That's all you need.
That's all you need is more vampires.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know what we missed out on. And also, that's fine. You want to go down there and hate and say that we're S and GW's D. But just watch last episode and you'll get the yin to your yang.
Welcome to the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for hanging out all the way to the end. We appreciate your dedication. I don't know. I was going to say something, but then I didn't know what to.
You had such a strong point that the follow up was guaranteed, and then you couldn't cash that check.
I just could not cash the check.
No, I have that. That happens to me sometimes.
It happens sometimes. If you guys like the podcast and you want to support it, there are a number of ways you can do that. But first, John was going to say something.
God damn it! I was drinking my Monster. I was going to say. That it's a pretty good Friday today, and you're listening to this on a Monday, and I hope that Monday in the future, you're listening to this in the future, that you have good Mondays.
All right. Yeah, he wants you to have a good Monday. Anyways, in 100 words, if you like the podcast and you want to support it, and you like the way that we take a very simple concept and explain it in a much more complicated way, You can support us in a number of ways. We mentioned the Patreon earlier, so we won't tread on that. You can also pick up our merch down there in the show notes and description. I have a bunch of fun things: long sleeve tees, t-shirts, short sleeve t-shirts,
Yoga
muscle
pants.
church. Yeah, lots of shirts, cups, yoga pants, all kinds of stuff. A lot of fun designs for the podcast specifically. You can also support us by sharing our podcast around with your friends, giving us reviews where you listen to podcasts, whitelisting our episodes, our channel on YouTube so we get ads. We play an ad every 30 minutes. Those are some ways you can support us without spending money. Those are all options, and we appreciate all of them, truly. Engaging on the platform, commenting, being part of the Facebook group, which is also linked down in the description. All just pushes us toward global domination. So we appreciate all of your support and our efforts to paint the world.
Yeah, we have really small aspirations on this podcast, and really, as long as at the end of the day that we are able to collect all the souls of humanity, we consider it a victorious day. And so we appreciate you doing your small part in that. So we're going to be back in a fortnight, and we hope that you join us there. We do not plan on shitting on or S in the D of Games Workshop in that episode, but we'll be doing something different. And until then, we'll catch you on the
Flippity flop.